Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you a video about experimental archaeology. Sometimes archaeologists use experimental methods to help do some of the science and to try and figure out some of the stuff that they need to figure out with regards to some of the tools and implements and artifacts that's left behind. So in this case I'm going to be doing some experimental creation of scrapers. Now, the early hunter and gatherers from about 2,000 years ago would have made scrapers to scrape a variety of different things, whether it be hide, wood, bone, plant material, or anything else. So what we want to do is try and find out what they use these scrapers for at a particular site. And what we're going to do then is I'm going to create some scrapers, actually use them on different materials, and then we're going to check the useware and compare that useware under the microscope with the artifacts to see what they were used for. Any good experiment starts off with a plan. So this was the first step in the procedure of the experiments. Here I have set out a broad plan for the experimental procedure with the type of materials that need to be worked and how they will be worked. The next step was to procure all the materials needed for the experiments and then to start the actual creating of the tools. So this included the knapping of the stone tool scrapers, as well as creating and shaping the handles for hafting, and in preparing some leather strips to be able to secure those tools into the wooden handle. The process will be covered in this video, part 1, and then there will be a part 2 which discusses shows the actual use of the scrapers on the different materials, and then part 3 will likely cover all of the results from the studies and the useware. The creation of the scrapers itself, so pieces of material were knapped to get flakes that can be turned into scrapers. A variety of techniques were used, including freehand hard hammer, so a piece of stone used as a hammer, and soft hammers like a piece of wooden billet or bone. As well as the bipolar technique, which means a little pebble or rock is placed between an anvil and then smashed with a rock. So smashed between two hard pieces. Now in the later Stone Age this can be done with quite some precision and accuracy depending on what type of flakes and shapes you want. Flakes that were good for creating the scrapers were isolated and then further shaped, either using a stone hammer or a piece of bone as a billet. The edges were then carefully refined using pressure flaking with a bone point. This is to ensure that there's a good even surface and that the edge doesn't have serrated edges that can tear into the hide or create streaks in any particular material that you're working. Scrapers needed to be hafted onto a wooden handle, so some pieces of wood were shaped into handles and cut down for this purpose. Modern tools were used for this process to save time, as the focus of the experiment was on the working edges of the actual stone scraper and not the handles or the hafting area. And doing it the traditional way would have taken months, because you'd have to use stone implements to scrape every piece and shape every piece. Now the handles were basically to create, for some of the tools, a very stable handle to use the tool, as some of them were lightly hafted. But we're also having some pieces of stone scrapers that we're going to use only with the hand to get an idea of what different techniques they may have used and to see if it has an impact on the useware. So leather strips were used to haft the tool into the shaft, and these were cut beforehand from a piece of springbok hide that I had, and that was actually prepared many years ago, so I didn't have that recorded, but I already have the other leather strips, and I'll show you how the hafting process goes and how the shaping process goes. Just to note though, useware might have been impacted by the actual making and shaping of the scrapers themselves, as you often use pieces of stone or bone to shape the edge that you'll be using for working. That may leave some traces on the tool, so a couple have been used as control where we'll look at them under the microscope and they won't be used for any task. They'll just be finished, completely knapped, but not worked. So then we can see if they actually do show some useware, and for comparisons with actual tools we can see under the microscope if there is some impact or not.